Okay, so that seems like a good time to do this. Let's just real quickly. 195 hours. It's probably more than that. I mean, it's probably. I mean, we did have a crash, and that did update the hours to 195, and I played for like another hour or two afterwards. But that's like in 2 weeks' time and like a day or so. Um, that seems like a very good time to talk about Fellowship and how I feel about it. First of all, let's just get out of the way. What is Fellowship? So for a very long time, I've been bitching about how, World of Warcraft and its WoW clones, all of them suck. All of them just currently suck. There's like a fuck ton of bullshit you have to do just to get to the actual gameplay, and by the time you get to the gameplay itself gets cucked in various many ways. It depends on the game, of course. I didn't play World of Warcraft myself. I played the WoW clones, things like Guild Wars 2 and SUTOR and 14. Now, the two that I mainly played were SUTOR and 14. I did both of them at an ultimate level and or nightmare level, depending on your whatever. I was a triple legend in 14 before I quit, and SUTOR I got every single legacy nightmare timer. Um, you know, blah blah blah. Okay. Playing at the highest level for both games consistently all the time. The only like limiting factor for me was being able to get along with players. This is just the way it is. Um, so how do I feel about this game? What is this game? Why does all that preamble matter? Well, so all those games have a combat system where it's tab target GCD. You know, basically, tab target GCD is I press tab to target. I target tab to between all the targets, or I can click them, and then GCD, where I like every single action has like a GCD associated with it, where there's a global cooldown is what GCD means, and every single action is gate kept by a timed GCD. For this class, it's 1 second. For most classes, it's 1.5 seconds, and for most games, it's 1.5 seconds. In 14, it's 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, excuse me. Though a lot of the things sort of normalize down to 2.2 or whatever, but you get the picture, right? That's the GCD, and basically what this does is that it's a limiting factor that allows players who are on a server together to be on the same playing field for how fast their characters are, because sometimes there's ping dependent stuff where basically sometimes in action MMOs, the ping actually does make it so that you can just hit faster. That was like a problem in Aeon and some other games. So I genuinely, vastly think unless the Ansible ever gets created, TabTargetGC will just always be superior, and even it has like limiting factors based on ping. Anyway, we get to this point. What is this game? What was all that? Why'd you rant about that for 3 minutes? Okay, so this is basically MMO Dungeon Simulator. It's not an MMO. I guess it could be considered one, but like the thing is that this combat system is sort of like gate kept behind what an MMO is. Oh, I guess one more important thing is obviously the tank, healer, DPS, holy trinity. Monsters will always do damage. A tank needs to grab them. Healer must sustain the tank through the damage, and then the DPS must damage the enemies before your healer runs out of mana or whatever the fuck the design is. Blah blah blah. And there's bosses, raid bosses, dungeon bosses, overworld encounters, and so on and so forth. That's like the whole thing. This game is just the dungeons. It's just 10-minute dungeons of one boss, and then like four bosses. Oh, so like there's like eight of those, and then there's four dungeons that are like three boss dungeons, and you go through them over and over and over again, grinding them higher difficulty. Things get harder, things have more mechanics, so on and so forth. And you collect loot and you progress your characters. Yes, characters, which are heroes, and unfortunately not characters you create yourself. I will talk about that in a second. But basically, effectively, you can think of these as the classes because they all have their own playstyle. Each class in the game has 18 buttons. Some of them are shared, like your mounts and stuff. Some of them are like stuff that could be shared, like weapon abilities and or relics. Relics are things that just items that you pick up that like do a thing. You get the picture, right? This potion gives me a 40% of my maximum health replenished on a 2-minute cooldown, and the Sin Binding Stone gives me a 15% damage reduction for me and my allies for 15 seconds on a God, what the fuck is the cooldown again? 3-minute cooldown. Okay, so and then you have like the this 13 unique abilities of your character, and then the ultimate, of course. I say of course, but like, okay. You have your substats, you have crit, expertise, haste, and spirit. You have the main set, which doesn't matter because the gear only drops for you, blah, blah, blah. Stamina is something that basic stamina and agility, stamina, what, strength, int, whatever. The main set, they just increase with your eye level. Then you may as well just not even think that they're there and just think about eye level. But basically, they up your HP and strength. Um, damage, excuse me. Crit gives you a chance to do double damage. Expertise is basically power or determination or whatever your equivalent stat is, where it just increases your damage. Haste is your skill speed, spell speed, your alacrity. It's basically like what increases the speed of your GCDs. And in this game, it increases the number of ticks in a cast, and so on and so forth. That things do damage. And then Spirit, which is the unique mechanic in this game. So there's this. There's a couple things. First of all, there's this ultimate ability. Every character has one. I will just generally say that it is your offensive cooldown, but it's a bit cooler than that. They all do really interesting, unique things. And you gain your offensive cooldown faster by having more spirit. And in addition to that, you have the spirit chance. So every single character has like a passive where you have a chance for that passive to proc. So for Mako, it's whenever you do a combo that consumes an Earthfall or Stormfall, you gain the Earthfall and Stormfall back, and you gain an armor buff. And yeah, that's how that works. There's talents. You have these. They basically are like your build basically revolves around these talents. There's no spec system in the game. The closest thing you have to a spec system is that some of these characters can be built around various things. Like Reim could be built around her finishers or her lasers, and so on and so forth, right? Reim is the ice mage hero. I should talk about like the heroes real quick, but basically, like generally, what this is that this is basically Mythic Plus Simulator. You pick a character, you level the character through the progression system that exists on the left side of the tree, which is just this. So from this point onward, all this entire branch is like up to 16 dungeon completions to gain you skills, skill points, and various fresh start stuff. And then when you progress through all these characters, you gain more skills and some more abilities. You do so by like queuing into quick play, where your gear doesn't matter, and you just really quickly do the dungeons for supplies and fellowships that you can upgrade, so you can get the initial gear. But eventually, you go into the actual meat of the whole thing, which is the difficulty scaling system, where basically you go through all the dungeons in like leagues, tiers, where they are of a certain difficulty, and then they get harder and harder and harder. So basically, the TLDR of this is that this is basically a class-based, not really, more like hero-based MMO combat simulator. But really, I mean, the developers want to call this MODA or multi, like it's like their multiplayer online dungeon something. Like it's whatever. They have their own like fucking genre for it. It's kind of unfortunate because the combat is just so held hostage by MMOs that we can't even call this combat anything. Anytime an MMO comes out, we're like, what is the combat going to be like? And some idiot is going to be like, is it action based? You know, everything's loaded. We can never really figure out when an MMO is coming out, whether or not it's going to be top target GC. And for some reason, a lot of these marketers, including Riot Trendemir, has been very coy about whether or not their MMO is going to have top target GCT combat because you guys don't want another WoW clone. Well, I can tell you straight from having 200 hours in this game in 2 weeks, yes, we fucking do. Let me talk about this game's features. Every single class in the game is extremely complicated and has a lot of depth to it. You might think, okay, well, Reim is really, really simple. You just do all the things that give you snow globes, and then you throw the snow globes into your big hits, and then you repeat. Yes, that's true, but there's a lot of nuance into how you use Reim, and it expands like the more like problems that exist in the dungeons themselves. Every single class has that nuance, and every single class has that like awesome like hero moment sort of thing where like you basically like are solving problems with your classes in very interesting ways where you're not just doing the same rotation over and over and over again, which is really fun. Every single class is really, really fun. I've done, I so my personal progression. I've gotten Mako to Eternal. I have gotten every single one of these trees completed for every single hero. Most heroes are in blue dungeons. A couple are in purple, and then of course Mako's in Eternal because she's all I play because I just want to progress, but I'm also trying to like play with my friends. Um, Yeah, so that's what this game is. I would love to like be doing this while playing gameplay, but I'm literally like about to go to bed, and I'm just trying to do a little bit of a rant about this game and review about this game. Um, what is the gameplay flow? The gameplay flow is literally just queuing for dungeons, going through the difficulties, getting your gear up. The dungeon like queues you for a dungeon difficulty based on your gear level, and in order to progress to the next tier, you have to clear the previous tier's capstone dungeon, and you must do it under a timer. Speaking of which, starting with Contender 4, starting with the green dungeons and the level 4 difficulty of that, you have a timer, and the timer increases your dungeon score if you complete it, and reduces your dungeon score if you don't complete it. And starting with blues, it reduces your gear eye level that drops. But you should still do it anyway because getting gear is better than not getting gear. Um, Timing is this game's incentive for getting better at the game, doing more damage, being able to pull bosses like and being able to pull trash consistently and efficiently and figure out like your path through these dungeons, which by the way, the dungeon design for the most part is very much more open-ended than your typical dungeon that you see in like typical WoW clones nowadays. I mean, I guess WoW has always been like this, but like 14 has very much standardized it to being like a very single line through and the packs that you are very much forced to pull, which is really unfortunate. And then SUTOR, it has a lot of the like. There's, it's a mixed bag. I'm not gonna go into that. That's not important. What's more important is that every single one of these dungeons, the mobs matter. Every single mob matters. Like you care about the executioner and it giving you stacks of increased damage taken. You care about the monsters that have interrupts. Every single character in the game has an interrupt. The tank has the shortest interrupt at 12 seconds, and then I think the melee have the next shortest at 16, and then everyone else is 20, I think. Yeah, 20. Healers do not have an interrupt. Every single class in the game also has like a CC ability. So Mako has like this Cyclone, which is an AoE pull that like displaces enemies and therefore it cancels their casts. And then you have the Stone Stomp, which is this AoE stun that stuns everyone. If you're stunned, you can't get your cast gets canceled. Every single character has like one CC, and some characters like Mako have two, but usually the tanks. Um, the healers don't really have CC. Like so, the dwarf has like a single 60-second single target stun, but the healers do not have interrupts past that. Um, and owing to the fact that three people in your party have an interrupt, so it stands to reason that the dungeons are going to have monsters that have interruptible mechanics, and the answer is yes. That is exactly what happens. Notable mobs exist in the game that you need to kick their kick is the WoW term for interrupt. You need to kick their very powerful spells, or your party will basically be in very much huge danger. While that usually doesn't really matter too much in green dungeon difficulty, when you get to blue and higher, something going off is really, really bad. So you want to be able to utilize your CC and work with your team in order to properly kick things. There is this really cool mechanic that this game has that I don't think any other game has, where if I press, so it's default V, but I've rebounded to H. It will allow you to set the target and will put your character profile there. And if I interrupt, it'll show my interrupts cooldown to my entire team, and it'll stack all of the three players that have their interrupt. They can all put their like profile next to it, and everyone can track their interrupts. It's really really cool. And because of that, you can see whether or not people's interrupts are up, who to go on. But it's even better than that because what you can do is they have a hotkey bind for, so I can set this guy as my interrupt target. I can be hitting this guy, and while I'm targeting this guy, I can hit the interrupt key. There is an alternate bind for interrupting your target that is for interrupts, and that will do that while I'm targeting down something that I'm focusing down, which is really really fucking cool. Um, so between all that, it helps to make interrupting in the game a little more pug friendly because you can see everyone's kicks and like when they're on cooldown and so on and so forth. But this game is still, at the end of the day, very much designed to be played with the pre-made. You want a team of 4 players when you're going through this, especially when you have newer players, so that you go at a slower pace, so that you can learn the game at a slower pace. Because the game, unfortunately, does push you to higher eye levels of dungeon content much, much, much faster, with the intent of trying to push you, which is good. I think players should be pushed, but I also think that players should be encouraged to like explore the game at their own pace and stuff. Um, that's one downside about the game. But anyway, so that's like a general description about the game. That took 15 minutes. I get to tell you my thoughts now about how I've been feeling about it. So, how do I feel about it? This is my game of the year. It's like not even close. I know there's like games like Clair Obscur that came out this year and Hollow Knight 2. I didn't play either of those games. I've been waiting for a game like this for a long time. I still want to make my fan game. I want to make my fan game, and I'm going to make my fan game where I make like a Tab Dark GCD, like, well, maybe not MMO, but maybe something like this, where or maybe it's going to be more of a showcase. I want to make that, and that's going to be really cool when I do. I have not given up on that, but what was funny was I was hoping that my project would fill a vacuum where people are like disgruntled with 14, SUTOR, WoW, Guild Wars 2, ESO, and every other game that's like it, and where they see my fan game and are like, "Oh my god, you get it! People want this," and so forth. Well, this game has basically filled that vacuum now. So now I'll just be making that game for the sake of making it for fun, which is fine. But it just goes to show what I've been saying for basically a decade now. We need a competitor WoW. We need a competitor 14. We need a competitor SUTOR. We don't need something that's half-assed. We need something that's real, something that's hard, something that encourages you to get better, something that doesn't handhold you, and something that just basically, for the most part, has skill expression across the board for every single role. And this game hits every single one of those points. Now, there are some problems that I have with class design, such as like casters all having like dashes and melee like literally having very limited like mobility tools. That sucks. But I guess if they want melee to be the sweatier class, then sure, fine, I'll take it. Whatever. I mean, fine. That's like what my one right in the entire thing. Everything else has been holy shit, this game is so fun. Holy shit, the class design is so smart, so high end, so high skill ceiling expressive. Like it's just it's so great. Everything about this game is not gear level dependent. Everything about this game, people will tell you, oh, you need higher eye level for it. No, 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 no. Like yes, there's like a base eye level that you need, but this game is skill expressive. If you clear the timer, it's because you were able to do it with skill. Now there is definitely ways to get carried. You can definitely use gear to carry yourself over the skill checks, but eventually you get to a point where that doesn't happen anymore. So this game is very skill expressive. The game is also like I will admit not very casual friendly. Not right now because there's no tutorial. Yes, there is a tutorial for Helena at the very beginning of the game. If you start the game, you can open that tutorial for Helena, and that's really cool. You can even access the tutorial at any time. But unfortunately, it's just Helena. Helena is the first tank hero. Um, there should be a tutorial for every single hero that introduces you to their abilities, and it really, really sucks that that doesn't exist. So every single player who goes into the game, they want to try another hero. It's like, here's what happens. You just go to the new hero, and then your hotbar, well, all the hotbar actions will just be at the top right because they'll just always set up for you, and you have to like set them all up yourself. You have to learn what the abilities do with your buttons. Sometimes you'll miss things because of how things are laid out. Sometimes you'll like, very importantly, the spirit mechanic. Without it, you get confused because certain things happen and it's overwhelming. Obviously, read your tooltips. You should be reading your tooltips. If you're playing a game like this and you're not reading the tooltips, then this game is not for you. And honestly, 14 and WoW and SUTOR and so on and so forth are not for you either. But of course, they want you to play their games and they want the tooltips to not matter, so whatever. For a very long time, I've been very disgruntled with 14 and its combat direction and how, like, its skill expression direction and how like it's handling all its classes. For a very long time, I have had issues with like how SUTOR does not at all like care about the high end. It does the bare minimum. There is a passionate group of developers that are trying really hard to give us something, but obviously EA is much more focused on making it a mobile game that milks the customers for everything it's worth. And WoW is something I'm just never going to touch with a 20-foot pole because, well, I was around when Blizzard destroyed StarCraft 2. So I was in the canary of the coal mine. It was pretty fucking awful and miserable. We were the first ones who got fucked before Diablo got fucked, before Overwatch got fucked, before Hearthstone got fucked, before WoW got fucked. So, you know, I will never touch WoW. Um, it's kind of funny because everyone was always telling me, go play WoW if you want to play this. Like, if you want to do this combat and have it be fun and engaging and rewarding and such forth. And I'm like, no, I'm never playing WoW. Sorry. I don't want to play retail. I don't want to play classic. I think a new competitor should exist that isn't Blizzard because I don't think Blizzard should have the monopoly on this kind of game. And I also think that I don't like the fact that every single video game wants to be like this visual novel bullshit. I think Day9 had a really good video about World of Warcraft and how like the visual novel just gets so in the way of the fucking gameplay. Even in that game of all fucking games, it's really fucking miserable and awful. I just want to fucking play the video game, and for some reason developers want to cater to normies so much. They want to give them a little movie, but like you interact with it a little bit, and it just ends up with like what you have with Final Fantasy 14, where your quests are literally just go from point A to point B, go to point B to point C, go to point C to point D. Okay, you have to kill some stuff, but it's not really that hard, not really that engaging. You have to go to point D. This is an actually fully voice acted cutscene this time. Ooh, and then you go to this thing. Okay, now go to this instance. Now you finally get to do some gameplay, but the gameplay is neutered because everyone has to be able to complete it because they want your sub, and it's really bad. And then Sutor, hilariously, Sutor is more of a video game than Final Fantasy 14 at this point, and that's with all of the terrible fucking rape that EA does to its customers. It's terrifying how the game is monetized like a mobile game and still is more of a video game than Final Fantasy 14. That's pathetic to think about, actually. As an avid 10K hour player of both, well, it's 20K for 14, but you get the picture. I know a lot of people will hate my take, but like, bro, I'm telling you the fucking truth. Anyway, so we're here now. And what do I think about this game now that I'm 20 minutes into ranting and rambling? Well, this game is very fun. Very, very fucking fun. It is everything I wanted from Tab Target GCT Combat. It's just the fucking dungeons. We'll get raids someday. They said they want raids to exist. They don't know what they're going to look like. I think they should probably go ahead and lean into both the Alliance style 40-man, 32-man, whatever raids for like a more casual experience, and maybe do like a hardcore version of that, and then do like a hardcore 8-player version of it, and like really just cater to all the fucking boundaries. And if they want to, they can also just do like a roguelike thing, Palace of the Dead, Torghast, so on and so forth, sort of thing. That's so you can do solo or with group. Maybe even do like solo like challenges where you're like, I don't think you need to do a story, but if you were to do a story, make us actually play the fucking video game in it, for crying out loud. Like even Sutor, it's a very low bar. It's a bar that's higher than 14 right now. But past Sutor, and you will be game of the year. Not even joking. Okay, cool. So, but like, I've just been obsessed with this game. I've been trying to get my friends to play it. The friends that I've gotten to play it, they are either very inexperienced with MMOs or they are very experienced with MMOs. Either way, they have enjoyed the fuck out of it. There's not been a single person that said that this game is miserable. They do get overwhelmed with the combat sometimes because this combat is definitely more merit based than any MMO that exists currently. Again, not counting WoW because I haven't played it. So this is very overwhelming, and there's no tutorials, and I'm having to literally learn the classes for them and help tutor them. But this is literally a tale as old as time as far as tutoring people in MMOs are concerned. I taught so many people how to play their classes at an ultimate level in 14 that I'm just, I'm used to it right by now. Genuinely, I would work for the company myself if they didn't live in Sweden. I'd be like, hey, listen, dude, I'm a software developer. I'm a software engineer. Let me help you develop tutorials for the characters. I would genuinely do that because I want this game to succeed. This game is in early access right now, and it honestly offers a more complete MMO experience than any other game. You can just go in, you pick your character, you go right into the dungeons. Obviously, there's a little bit of onboarding with getting all of your skills in the left side here. But other than that, it's like that's the built-in tutorial for yourself. But even if you wanted to just bring in your friends, there's always quick play where the stakes don't matter, and you just go in and you learn, and you have fun. You're progressing every single character. The high-end players actually do want these things, even though they can get them in more spades in the purple and gold dungeons, and of course the eternal difficulty. There's no bullshit. There's no like 400 hours of cutscenes to get to the fucking gameplay. You just go in, you do dungeons. It's hard immediately. It's demanding immediately. It's mentally stimulating immediately, and you just have fun. And the thing is that for casuals, I think that casuals should absolutely play this in a 4-player group together, that they are on a Discord call with friends that they know, and they should just laugh, try, and go, because that'll be your best experience. This game is really very much best enjoyed in a group. It's like not even close. Like my enjoyment of this game is like a game of the year pre-made, and then like maybe a 4 out of 10 in a pug. But it's still, you'll have that one group of pugs that actually like are like both competent and are trying. Like, and again, I don't have a problem with bad players in my pugs as long as they're trying. Like I can work with trying. I can work with trying. The game has basically given us a lot of tools to help us like carry, like for the most part. So I mean, obviously once you get to purple dungeons, sometimes that just isn't true, but you get the picture. um I want to just take a picture of my like hours played in this game and like the date of the release, date of today, and I will like mail it to Riot Trendemir with like the message, yes, we did want it, you retard. Here, let me see if I can pull up the Riot Trendemir post. Trendemir on X, Mark Merrill. Let me see if I found it. I found it. Here we go. So scene. All right. After a lot of reflection and discussion, we decided to reset the direction of the project some time ago. The decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The initial vision just wasn't different enough from what you can play today. We don't believe you all want an MMO that you played before with Runeterra to Coat of Paint. To truly do justice to the potential of Runeterra, to meet the incredibly high expectations of players around the world, we need to do something that feels like a significant evolution to the genre. I'm going to say this very succinctly. This is the most out of post touch that I've ever fucking seen in the MMO discourse. And Fellowship proves that. Here's the thing. I have faith in the system that exists in these MMOs, the tab target GCT system that exists, the dungeons, the raids, the overworld, the quests, everything that has existed in classic WoW, SUTOR, 14, and so on and so forth. I actually don't agree with the way 14 introduces you with the MSQ. If we just completely ignore how MSQ is handled in Final Fantasy 14, everything else about it is perfect. Okay, well, was perfect. The this whole thing where it's just a lack of respect and a lack of faith in the formula that has existed for a very long time and has very much. Here's the thing. If this was 2010 and like all these WoW clones that are soon to die just came out, right? Then I'd be like, yeah, sure. We definitely need to have a significant evolution in the genre. Unfortunately for Mark Merrill, it's been 11 years since Final Fantasy 14 came out. We haven't had a WoW clone since then. Not really. This was their chance to completely destroy Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. Like, this was their chance, and they threw it away. They threw it away and hired an EA, like, an EA cuck who was probably behind Anthem and Star Wars: The Old Republic. So, we'll let you know how that goes. I have no idea if that guy's still working, by the way, because it looked like they were hiring, like, a lot of people, and I think like one of them was the executive producer. Don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong. Anyway, the point is, like, he has this game is everything that they just basically said. You don't want this. You don't want to play this. You don't want to play like what you played before, but with like another IP. Yes, I do. I think that this combat system, this whole thing, I think that it is not, we are not done iterating on it. We are not done improving on it. We are not done like, using it as a base and designing really cool things. And I think we can take it all further. We can take boss design further. We can take raids further. And if we have to bring back raid mechanics that existed before and iterate them in new, interesting ways, or even just iterate them for the sake of just, the good old days, like, we absolutely should do that. And we can do that. That happens in first person shooters all the time. And like the idea that like we can't iterate it on anymore, no, you know what it is? It's because they're afraid of normies and they're afraid they can't bring normies onto this kind of gameplay. You can bring normies onto this kind of gameplay with the proper onboarding systems, the proper marketing, and the proper community. I bring normies onto this game all the time, or onto this kind of game all the time. It's really simple to do so. All you need to do is have like a proper onboarding. And unfortunately for MMOs, onboarding is outsourced to the players. this is something you probably already know if you're very familiar with MMOs. Why create guides when the community, you can just talk to each other and that way you can learn how to improve from each other. But unfortunately, everyone has main character syndrome and doesn't actually want to teach each other, or even worse, doesn't want to learn from each other either, because they live in this bubble where they think that they are the smartest person alive and that they know how to play the game. You're ruining our fun because you're making me heal on healer, and it's like, bro, yeah. So I think normies very much can enjoy MMOs. I think like the reason why World of Warcraft was so successful was because the system that existed was very, very fun. And it wasn't just a bunch of geeks that played World of Warcraft. There were a bunch of normal people with lives, jobs, wives, children, everything that played these games. In fact, they play these games nowadays. Like you have to understand, like this isn't some nerdy, sweaty, oh, only the top 1% thing. Like and the best part about this game is this is probably the most elitist catering game I've ever seen in my entire life. It fucking marketed just to the fucking WoW Mythic players. It used Method and grabbed all their streams and used them to promote this game. And the game still managed. Like, by the way, this was the only marketing they had. Like, no one in Final Fantasy 14 heard this game. No one in SWTOR heard this game. No one in Guild Wars 2 heard this game. No one who cares about this kind of combat heard about this game. It was just the WoW plebs. It was just those assholes. And despite that, this game still had 40,000 on launch and kept that for an entire week. In early access, it completely surpassed their expectations and their servers could not handle the players. It was pretty fucking funny. Um, and it makes me wonder how this game would do with better marketing, better onboarding, better everything. Like, right now it doesn't have any of that and it's still doing this well. It's probably going to fade into obscurity because of the lack of marketing, and that's a real shame because this game is really fucking good, like even as is. Um, I think that there's so much that could be explored with this game. I think this game could become so much more. If they wanted to just turn it into an MMO straight up, they would have to like completely undo the whole fucking hero thing. I guess I can talk about that now. The one thing I don't like about this game is the fact that it's hero based instead of character based. I get making your character based on a class and so on and so forth. I get the reason why they wanted to do that. There's like three reasons. Reason number one is because they want to be able to design characters because that's like the thing now. Every single game has to have like characters, and these characters are like notable heroes and so on and so forth. They could say, oh, he's a Taric player instead of saying that he's a Berserker. And oh, he's an Aeolarian player instead of saying he's a hunter. People are saying hunter anyway. And that's like the thing. Like people like heroes, so we're gonna design heroes, and it's gonna be awesome. Like I'm not gonna talk about like it's just like that was expected. I wish that wasn't a thing. It also allows them to be like, okay, well now your character has like this design and so on and so forth, and they have ultimate, and they also just were able to voice act the characters in a specific way where they're basically designed around the fact that they are a character and not just you know, a an empty slate character that you create and so on and so forth. Which okay, fair enough. If you want to do that, that's fine. I get that that's why they did it. Reason number two is because they wanted players to like actually like explore the alts. Because one of the biggest problems that MMOs have is they have all this content. Basically, let me give you an example. To me, in an MMO, the class learning each and every single class and progressing them to max level, that is the content. Doing them through the dungeons and so on and so forth. In Final Fantasy 14, which basically iterated off of Final Fantasy 11, in the sense like had a job system and you leveled the jobs. Um, you switch jobs at any time and you will retain that job's level, and you can continue to progress until all your jobs are max level. And to me, in Final Fantasy 14, when you weren't raiding, the dungeon leveling was the content. Learning Ninja and getting it to max level, learning Dragoon, getting it to max level, learning Scholar, getting it to max level. That was the casual content. And a lot of people were very resistant to this, even with like the ease of being able to just change your class at any time. I blame this, of course, on the systems that existed being very counterintuitive, but well, it wasn't counterintuitive. It was just really hard for normal people to explain to understand. For a lot of the people who had an IQ over 100, it was pretty easy to understand. Whatever. Okay. But you get it. That's a pain point, and that's where people are like, well, I don't want to manage gear and so on and so forth. The armorer system doesn't work and so on and so forth. You get the picture. A lot of this stuff just gets in the way of players being able to fucking play extra classes, and therefore an entire section of game content is just not experienced by these players. And then you have character limits and stuff, which is sort of like this thing that like when you're not doing like the job system and you're not doing this shit, it's like, oh, you want to play Star Wars: The Old Republic? You want to play Lord of the Rings online? You want to learn? You want to play more than 2 classes? Give us money. And it's really fucking predatory and awful. It sucks. So you have all these things that just sort of get in the way of you practicing and playing with more characters and exploring more characters. Character limits in all these games really, really suck, by the way. They really suck. A lot of them are very predatory. They really shouldn't be a thing. There should be like, at the very least, there should be enough characters to be able to try all the classes. Anyway, so this system allows you to go ahead and just do just that. Try out all of the heroes. It's probably the most successful version of this model in that sense. So even though I hate the idea of heroes, that makes sense. So that's reason number 2. I think reason number 3 is they really didn't want to have you design characters for whatever reason. I guess it was because like I guess I merged this into like reason number 1, but like it's a lot easier to have voice acting and like design these characters and flesh them out when they're actually like characters and not like the blank slate thing that you create. They want you to like progress the classes as they are and not make multiple different alts that do the same class thing. It would be nice to progress as Mako through Contender all the way through again. This is like another thing that's kind of important, but your gear is not shared between characters at all. You have to progress every single character completely on their own. There is some gear skipping in the sense that like once you complete a capstone, you can get the minimum eye level for the next tier on another character by using supplies. That exists. God, what else is there to rant about? Like, so like, I understand why heroes are the way this is going. I just, and it's probably fine for a game like this that isn't actually an MMO. But man, it does get in the way of my enjoyment of the game just a little bit. I know that's a really stupid thing to get to be upset about, but yeah. The game is so much fun though. Literally, like every single time I do like a hard dungeon in this game, it's just like a massive amount of thrill and stress that I've missed having for like a decade. I've missed having. So it's nice to just have that back. It's nice to be able to bring other people into it and be like, hey guys, so this is what I want. This right here is what I want. This is something that doesn't exist anywhere else right now. You cannot get this in WoW. You cannot get this in 14. You cannot get this in SUTOR. You cannot get this in Guild Wars. You cannot get this. This is it now. This is where you can experience it. This is my example of what I want the game to be like. And say, this is what the MMO should have. This is what the way the content should be. But it could be that this game will be like the League of Legends of this genre, and it could just be like, okay, well, MMOs are dead now because if you want to do dungeons, you play a game that's like this. That could very well happen, and that would be very sad because I think MMOs are really fucking awesome, and them dying like this because of Riot being incompetent, Riot literally having the chance to fix everything and throwing it away, that sucks. Whatever. Overall, this is very much the kind of game that I've been waiting for. Not entirely, sort of. In terms of gameplay, absolutely. In terms of a full MMO, obviously not. But now I don't even know if an MMO will sate my desires anymore if it doesn't have even close to this amount of enjoyment in the dungeon system. I feel like Pandora's box has already been opened, and like people are going to look at the fact that you can just jump right into dungeoning and do nothing but dungeoning in this game, and no gear like repair, no various other setup and stuff, no chores, no anything. Just go in and play the fucking video game. I think the Pandora's box is there and it's been opened and we're not gonna have it back. It's like but I don't know. Well, maybe it's not entirely the end of MMOs. But I don't know, we'll see. But at the end of the day, props to this dev team for giving me something that makes me feel alive for the first time in a long time. If you haven't played Fellowship yet, definitely play it. If you know me, ask me and I will literally like queue dungeons for you as a tank in order to get you insta queue so you can play the game as much as you want. I will help you learn the game, everything. If you don't know me, get a pre-made, play this with friends. Don't bother with pugs. I mean, you can bother with pugs. Just your mileage may vary. I would highly recommend you get a group of 4 players to play with in this game at Progress. Maybe even like get your entire friend group going and just go 4 at a time or whatever. Make a guild, whatever. There's no guilds in this game. I'm tired. It's 4:30. I need to go to bed, but these are my thoughts on Fellowship. I've been having an absolute blast. This is literally, I'm not even playing RuneScape. I was playing RuneScape for like, I'm progressing my hardcore. I got 10 kill counts of Toa Expert with like Addle. It's pretty great. But like, I stopped playing that account simply because this game came out. Oh, yeah. Funnily enough, to give you an idea of how little marketed this game is, I found this game by chance because my friend wanted to play Lego Party. So when I was going to purchase Lego Party, I was typing it in the search bar, and I guess when I typed LE, it auto-corrected Fellowship in the search bar. Like I was saying Fellowship, I was like, what's Fellowship? I've never heard of Fellowship. It sounds like a party. It sounds like a game that you play with friends, like in a group, like Fellowship of the Ring. And then I go in and I see it's literally what I've been wanting to play for a very long time, or at least the gameplay of it is. Like, I was, but like, yeah, this game literally, like, no one knows it exists. They should all like genuinely. If you play Final Fantasy 14 and you don't like its combat direction, or even if you do like its combat direction, if you play SWTOR and you actually just like the gameplay when it's dungeons and stuff, if you play like Guild Wars 2 and every single game that could be considered a WoW clone or even not a WoW clone, if you play an MMO and you love dungeoning, you owe it to yourself to play this game. I don't think you're gonna hate it. At the very least, you're going to enjoy it. Also, $25 one-time purchase. Like, come on. Like every other game, you have to sub $15 a month for in order to play. They release new content. You have to catch up in gear. If you take a break from the game, you have to fucking get punished with a massive grind back. This game is literally. I bet you like if you don't come back to this game for like I don't know, for like a year and the game's still alive, the worst that I imagine is probably you have to farm gear again. Oh no, I have to progress again from the beginning with gear. But the thing is that to me, the journey is the fun part. Like I'm enjoying playing the new characters because I'm progressing and getting new gear and getting up. I'm excited if seasons in this game were literally okay, your Mako is like got into this prestige. Congratulations. All right, everything's reset. You're in contender now. You have 0 gear. I would be 1000% on board with that, unironically. I know other people would hate it, but I would enjoy that because I get to progress the game again and it's fun. I mean, I'm a Path of Exile player, so that's just how I feel. I have absolutely no idea what the game is actually going to do for that, by the way. So I have no idea if they're doing that or anything else, but you know, I'm just rambling at this point. Anyway, game good. Go play it. $25. It's literally the best value you could ever have. Honestly, it's better value than any MMO right now. Um, in my opinion, it's better than 14, better than SWTOR. Um, it's definitely like I'm never gonna go back to those games ever again. Like I have seen those games for the scams that they are a long time ago. I was like itching to go back to 14 because even though the combat was neutered to fuck, I was just like, but oh, maybe I just want to play Paladin just one more time. No, we're done. We're done with 14 forever. What I paid for doesn't exist anymore with Final Fantasy 14. Hopefully they preserve this game and Mako as it plays right now doesn't completely change a decade from now. Who knows? All right, that's it.